It's time to welcome Mr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State in the Narendra Modi cabinet. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining us on ET Now. I must introduce my panel to you. We've got Swaminathan Iyer, Sagrika Ghosh, Sadanand Dume, and R. Jagannathan, all who are going to take questions with you. But what a spectacular victory, and I think your worst detractors are now congratulating you and telling you it was a spirited campaign that has culminated into a tsunami of sorts as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned. Is this Mr. Modi's victory? Is this the victory of Narendra Modi, or is this really the victory of the BJP? Because he was the face of the campaign, he decided, he strategized, and he led it from the front.
Yeah, certainly. I think one important outcome, as you put it your way, of the Modi phenomenon is that voter has found an opportunity to show his ability to rise above caste, creed, religion, caste, region considerations, and to vote for a future of development, and to vote for the future of India. And I think for that he required an inspiring rallying point, which came forth in the form of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his trustworthiness, his ability to connect to people and to win their confidence, coupled with the organizational strategy planned by Amit Bhai Shah. I think the other important outcome, which I could even say the beginning of a new chapter in the history of Indian democracy, is that every successive election in India, particularly in the heartland, was to a lesser or a greater extent influenced by a feudal mindset, dynasties, families, and I think for the first time the voter has also proved that he's come of age. We have an India which has 65 to 70% of youth population, and the youth have shown the ability to liberate themselves from the shackles of feudalism, which was the legacy of pre-independence India, and to come out of the compulsions of dynastic succession followed by certain parties, and to vote for true democracy in its true sense. And again, the inspiration is Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has a connect with the grassroots, who's risen from there, Amit Bhai Shah, who has a similar profile, and therefore the people of this country, particularly the youth voter, has understood and realized that he can identify himself with the present leadership of Bharatiya Janata Party, who can assure him of a safe future, and he can put in his stake.
Mr. Jitendra Singh, before I throw it open to my panel to take questions with you, I am a journalist and I must ask you questions that I see on the ground. And when I travel through Uttar Pradesh, there was a little bit of polarization, and one can't deny that. It may not have been to the proportions that your opposition is making it out to be, but these were polarized polls. This was also a poll where the BJP went very strategically. You allied with the right caste equations, you gave tickets to the right candidates. So a lot of it doesn't just have to do with the face of Narendra Modi or the development agenda that he was selling, but it also has to do with the political master strokes. And I'm not blaming you for playing those, because all political parties should be doing that. But I'm just saying that these were also reasons that aided the numbers as they add up. You are at 308 right now, and this is the biggest victory ever for the Bharatiya Janata Party in Uttar Pradesh.
I don't know whether I could totally agree with that, because in retrospective, when you say that you chose the right kind of candidates, I think that's a compliment which any party should be ready to accept. If we did so, I think we did so because we had a leadership which has a vision to choose candidates on the basis of their merit, ability and their winnability, regardless of their caste, creed, religion. And that, in a way, also supplements our inclusive approach. And I think that is the reason Bharatiya Janata Party today has a presence north, east, south, west, northeast. Can you speak of Manipur? I think that's something, because for obvious reasons we are not discussing too much of it. But this is a state where Bharatiya Janata Party till a few years ago was hardly spoken about, not a party to reckon with. We started from nowhere. And I think the manner in which Manipur has voted is not only of political significance or democratic significance, it has shown its faith to be a part of mainstream India, because these are some of the states which are which were in certain quarters described as alien states. Now these are the states which have shown the will, the ability and also confidence under Prime Minister Modi to be a part of the mainstream journey of development led by the Bharatiya Janata Party leadership. And I think that's a great contribution to the national interest, as is we are taught in our Sangathan, Desh, Pehle Desh, Phir Dal and Phir Swayam. I think we have lived up to that ideal of serving the national interest by way of this election.
Mr. Jitendra Singh, though, it's a day of reckoning for the BJP, and what a win it has been, and nobody can dispute the fact that Uttar Pradesh was the most prized cash, the most prized asset, and you've been able to win it handsomely, hands down. But in retrospect, there were party leaders of your party, and if you look at the kind of tickets that you distributed, the Bharatiya Janata Party did not give tickets to a single Muslim candidate. So we will perhaps see the first, one of the first governments in Uttar Pradesh which will not have a single Muslim member. In retrospect, do you believe you could have accommodated at least some Muslim candidates? They account for nearly 20% of that state's population.
No, I'll answer it in two parts. Let me take the second part first. If we don't have an elected MLA as a Muslim, that does not necessarily mean that we will not have a Muslim in a government. There are other means also which I do not need to elaborate. We could still have Muslim representation in the government. Now coming back to the earlier part, others may be apologetic, I am not. If somebody says there was no Muslim candidate, that does not mean that we have excluded Muslims. It only means that the determination and finalization of the candidates was done purely and purely on merit per se. We do not subscribe to that kind of a view which has been held for 7 decades in this country. How many tickets for Hindus, how many for Muslims, how many for Dalits, and that is what I am describing as a watershed. The voter of this country has accepted and acknowledged this approach of rising above these considerations and then looking for democracy in its true sense. And I think that's a contribution that Bharatiya Janata Party has made. And the very fact that we have been successful in spite of that is a vindication of this approach, and I'm sure the other parties will also follow it.
Jitendra Singh, you are an influential member within your party. You were at Ashoka Road where these decisions will be made. I'm curious to know, Mukhyamantri kaun banega? Who will be the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh? Is that going to be determined by the caste equations, and which is why perhaps Mr. Maurya is the front runner? Or could we see a dark horse like Dinesh Sharma, the Mr. Clean in the BJP, make a debut as the UP's Chief Minister?
Yeah, you are entitled to ask me that, but I don't think it will be appropriate for me to precisely respond to that at this point in time. But I may just point out over here that Bharatiya Janata Party is an organizational party, a Sangathanatmak party. We have a mechanism in place, we have procedures in place. It's not a family-oriented party or a family-centric party or a dynasty party where the name of the Chief Minister has to be announced from by the kitchen coterie. So we have a process, and names are discussed, the merits of each name are discussed, the profiles are discussed, sometimes even the surveys are conducted, and finally by consensus a name evolves through a natural democratic process, because this is a party which observes the norms of democracy not only outside the party but also in its inner party functioning. And therefore I think whatever the party leadership decides would be in the best interest of the people of Uttar Pradesh. And I may also add over here that the peculiarity of this party is that any given point in time we have more than one candidate who is capable enough to take over as Chief Minister.
I'm wondering if that consensus is between Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, but I think Swaminathan Iyer has a question for you and I'm going to throw it across to him. Swami.
Sir, you said that all the candidates were chosen entirely on merit, and therefore the question of religion and being a Muslim has nothing to do with it. Is it credible that in a state with such a large population of Muslims, that there was no Muslim who was sufficiently creditworthy to become a BJP candidate? Or to put it another way, did you come to the conclusion that a BJP Muslim candidate was incapable of winning? Is that what you mean by saying that everybody was chosen on merit?
I think I hardly need to answer this question anymore, which has been put repeatedly, for the simple reason that we stand vindicated by the decision, by the voter outcome and the poll outcome that we have witnessed today.
Right. So, Sagarika, you have a question for Mr. Singh because we'll let him go after this then. Sagarika?
Yeah, again, Mr. Singh, the same question for you. Are you as a party worried that your face, your star campaigner, your main man is now the Prime Minister? He has to go to Bihar and campaign. He has to go to Uttar Pradesh and campaign. He actually goes to state elections and campaigns on his name to win victories for you. So as a party, are you now entirely reliant on the Prime Minister and his face and his persona? He is a he is Neta number one in India today. But as a party, are you overly reliant on Mr. Narendra Modi? Are your local leaderships at the state level, for example in Uttar Pradesh, in other states, are your local leaderships being undermined by the personality cult of the Prime Minister?
On the contrary, we are proud of it. And I may also tell you, as I said, this is the unfolding of a new chapter. For many years, I think all of us, both in media as well as in public life, had got conditioned to Prime Minister confining himself to the PM house. Is the Prime Minister supposed to spend all his time at his residence? We have a Prime Minister who is among masses. We should be proud of him. He's a man of the masses. And that is his biggest asset. And that's the biggest asset of Bharatiya Janata Party. He's risen from the masses, risen from the grassroots, and that is the reason we are seeing the kind of result that we are seeing today. And therefore, if he is among the people, it speaks volumes of his credibility, not only as Neta number one of the country, as you put it, but Neta number one of the world. The esteem of India has gone up because of Prime Minister Shri Modi.
Mr. Singh, just 1 second. I think Sadanand has a point to counter Sagarika, and then I'm
obviously touched by Sagarika's deep concern for the BJP. But, talking about, Modi being this big, problem for the BJP as a party is a little bit like, going to the 1980s at the peak of Argentina's dominance of football and saying that, don't you have a problem because you've got Diego Maradona? Well, how is that a problem? They have a star campaigner. He is leading from the front and he's taking the team to many victories. How on earth is that a problem for any party?
I think Mr. Singh has to leave. I'm going to come in on that side. I think Mr. Singh has to leave, and I must ask him a question then on reforms, on decision making in New Delhi. How does these elections, how do these polls, the verdict in your favor, a hands down verdict in Uttar Pradesh, change things in New Delhi? Are we going to see perhaps the more controversial reforms being undertaken? The Prime Minister has shied away from privatization. He hasn't talked about corporatization of railways. He's stayed away from those issues. Are we going to see him do that, or should we make our peace with the fact that Modi's economic ideology is not what many in the market thought it would be?
No, that's a very important question that we've asked. Yes, I think this government has the courage and also the courage of conviction under Prime Minister Modi to carry forward these reforms. Can you ever imagine or visualize the announcement of remonetization being made on 8th of November, just a few months earlier or prior to this important assembly poll coming up? Normally, no elected government or elected Prime Minister would have taken that kind of a risk. But people had the faith in the honesty and the approach which stands vindicated today. Yes, you are right, we had problem of numbers in New Delhi, particularly in the Rajya Sabha. But as by and by the composition in the state assemblies changes, I am sure that hassle or hurdle would also be gradually overcome. And immediately what we look forward is, and the entire nation looks forward is, much delayed, much awaited GST bill. And the rest would follow.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.